Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche Podcast. I'm Justin Michael, aka J Mike. AJ's back. Eric LaCroix is here. We're diving into the latest NHL playoff action. We're setting the scene for a massive game in Florida tonight. We're going to talk a little Avs development and maybe some internal hiring options for Jared Bednar's staff as well. I guess just first things first. Big E, what stood out to you about last night?
Nuggets won. That's it, No, as you guys know, I watched a little bit of Nuggets, so my knowledge of basketball is very limited, but very excited. And I love how they just complained that Jokic is too rough and, whatever. But at the end of the day, they won. And it's funny because I don't get basketball, so it's funny when I watch it, and I don't understand the whistles. But last night on the flip side of things, hockey-wise, Winnipeg just stayed alive and missed opportunity for, that's why I was saying, how does that relate to the Avalanche sometimes? You know what I mean? Like it's missed opportunities to have a better game. And I know what people are going to say, like, oh, there's two teams out there. No, I get that. I'm the one that says that all the time. But it's a missed opportunity for Dallas, to really close it out like Edmonton did, the day before, right? So now your momentum shifts to the, Winnipeg side of things. And, that's, there's a lot of similarities there, with the Avs and same thing with Washington, Carolina, a lot of similarities. And all of a sudden they close out. I know it's a nothing burger goal at the end of the game, but it's what happens when you put pucks on net, right? That's, you feel bad for Thompson because it's a tough one. You can see he doesn't see it, but it's a nothing burger goal, and that's how you close out a series.
What about you, AJ?
I don't feel bad for Logan Thompson. Make your saves, man. Goaltending is hard. You have a job to do. You're not being asked to score any goals. You're not being asked to play defense. You're being asked to just stop pucks, and you give up stuff like that. That's on you, man. Bad goal. In the same way that Game 5 in Dallas for the Avalanche. Mackenzie Blackwood gives up that nonsense 9 seconds into the game, sets the tone for the entire night, and it's like, that's on you. Not anybody else. That's on you, man.
I was being politically correct.
Well, not my strength. So, that I just don't. I'm obviously like go Canes, so I'm thrilled. I'm like, all right, excellent. But yeah, the better team.
Are you surprised the series got extended in the West? Are you surprised of how that Winnipeg-Dallas game played out?
A little bit. This Dallas team, gosh, when Dallas looks good, they look awesome. But between Dallas and Edmonton, you have two teams that it feels like their floor is so low, where it's when they're not playing really well, they just don't look good at all. And Winnipeg was, Winnipeg beat that ass last night. They really did take it to them, and Connor Hellebuyck held up his end of the deal. And I think you can look at it and say that I think Winnipeg's been the better team the last couple of games. It's just the difference in goaltending. And Jake Ottinger, solid again, although, some adventures.
He looked a little more human last night. I was talking him up a ton before the game yesterday, and just talking about how, like, if you're Dallas, that's probably what gives you confidence going into a game like that, is you have had that steadiness between the pipes. And I don't think he was a disaster or anything, but if he's going to be human and, the other guy's going to be the MVP caliber player that he is, then I don't know. This series could get interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, Dallas has one game left to close this out, because if Winnipeg is coming back home after
you don't want to go
winning
back
two
to
in a
that
row,
environment. Yeah.
Right. And all of the pressure will shift to the Stars immediately, because at that, like, Winnipeg literally will be playing with house money on home ice. The pressure's not on them. Everybody has kind of written them off in this series, myself included. And so Dallas now has to, and I think we have seen from the Stars, not just this year, but over the years, that they're much better when they are facing some sort of a moment like that, when they are staring down pressure. They're better. They get comfortable and they don't play very well at times. And when they are backs against the wall and it draws out the best in them. And I think that is a testament to the character and their maturity as a club. You remember the game where they were eliminated last season by Edmonton. They gave up like 9 shots on goal and lost like 2-1. Like it was just like they did everything they could in that game. You asked them to do everything. Like beating Dallas is extremely difficult to do when they have their back against the wall and they're actually like it's go time. And I think last night that was the comfortable version of the Stars, that you're just like, they didn't take it seriously enough. And now going back home, don't put them on a power play. And I think that I like their chances. Like I like Winnipeg's chances to at least make this interesting.
That's what kind of annoyed me about some of the chippiness late in the game, was I felt like it was a bit of a complacent effort from Dallas, given the situation. It's like, now you're going to goon it up once it's 3-0 and there's 3-4 minutes left in the game. I know it works both ways, but I was fired up, man. Jamie Benn throws the sucker punch on Haefele, and there are a few guys in sports that get under my skin as much as him. Like, he's not even good anymore. He's just out there throwing cheap shots. I don't know. I don't understand how he throws a sucker punch and Haefele gets a 2-minute penalty for it.
Yeah, what do you get, like 2 minutes for roughing or something? And you're like,
yeah.
His face roughed up Jamie Benn's fist? What happened? Yeah, it was that was an interesting call. Also, I think that's one of the very few postseason games that the Stars have lost with Wes McCauley as ref over the last like 4 years.
Ooh. Does that chippiness carry over, Eric? Like, is that something that'll carry over into the next game?
Well, I come from a different era, so I'm old school, and I mean, AJ knows, like, my era was honestly 4-0 game. The last 5 minutes would take an hour. I mean, it's just the way it was, because you don't call it dumb or whatever you want to call that. Like, there's still parts of it though that still exist today. You don't want to give an inch to the other team, because it's like, hey, there's possibly 2 more games, right? So, okay, you got us right now, but we're still ahead in the series. We're still going to show up next game, and yes, it's that old mentality, but it's so hard to win a Stanley Cup, and no one wants to give it away, and no one wants to give up the opportunity to fight for it, and that's why, like, the competitiveness shows up, and it's different, and the rules are a little different. I mean, it was like I said, back in my day, would have been a good old, what do you call that, Donnybrook or whatever. Like, oh my Lord, like, I mean, 4-0, you're like, here we go. Why, who's going out there? It's not Sakic, it's not Forsberg, it's me, right? You know what I mean? Like, and then that, if you're up 4-0,
Mark Scheifele would not have been on the ice.
No, they're licking their chops. They're like, oh, Craig Berube would be out there, and then you're like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, I gotta get out there. It's a scare. It was nuts. Like, it's so different. But yeah, I mean, I like it. I'm not gonna lie to you. Max is not here right now, but Max and Ty, my boys, were watching 2 nights ago, and I'm going back a couple of days. We talked about it, the Toronto game, and I felt like Toronto was so lost that game. Like, I don't know. There was no emotion. There was no nothing, and then I think Max said something like, hey, do you think you think they can come out of this? And I'm like, wow, that's just like a defeating loss. Like, it's just like, people are like, you can lose 2-1 in overtime, it's the same thing. No, it's not. No, it's not. I understand you'll say that, because that's what happens when you lose 6-0 and whatever they scored at the end, nothing burger rule. But, I remember Max asked me, he's like, well, can they recover from this? And I'm like, buddy, the only way they can recover, there's 5 minutes left. I don't care what it is. You just start a brawl right now. And that's it. And AJ knows me, like, and I'm not for violence. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, you got to show that you're there. You got to show you have emotions. And, you can't do it with your puck and stick right now because it's 6-0 and you haven't done anything. So, and I'm not saying to go out and have suspensions, and that's from back then. Those are dumb takes, That's not what I'm saying. But I don't know, get involved, like show them that you're there, and maybe the other guy, like starts railing on you, punching you. Yeah, he starts punching you and he breaks his wrist. I don't know, like, right? Because right now, like, Florida's just having a cakewalk. You know what I mean? And it's just nothing. No one's going to get injured. It's going to be easy. So I'm not promoting violence. I'm saying it's just sometimes you have to show some emotions. It's a contact sport. And it's like, it's a physical sport. And you have to show that you're in it, So, but to get back to a little bit of those games, like for me, how it relates to the Avs, it's funny because it's like maybe that's what's kind of hurt the Avalanche a little bit, even this year. Like they didn't deliver the knockout punch, right? You know what I mean? So they have the power play. We talked about it yesterday, AJ, where they're like game 2 and game 3, right? Forming a power play. Here's a knockout punch for that game. I'm not saying series-wise, but I'm saying, so maybe like that's where I relate the Avalanche yesterday to the Dallas Stars. It's like, yeah, they were just like AJ said. They were just at their floor. They were not near their eye of the tiger and knockout. Now you're playing in dangerous territory. The answer is going to be, yeah, but we're up 3-2. No, I get that. That's that's a fact. But now there's a little bit pressure on you because, like you guys just said, you lose, you drop that one, you're going back to game 7. I wouldn't want that to happen for the Dallas Stars. And I know what they're going to say after that. Yeah, but the Boers hate no and 7 game 7s. And, right? That's what, you play the narrative. But fine,
You play enough game 7s, you're going to lose one eventually.
You're going to lose one, and that's my point. So now you're playing with fire, and then the top guys for Dallas yesterday, I didn't think they had a really good game. Where on the flip side of things, Winnipeg caught a lucky goal, Haefele at the start of the game off a leg, right? But Hellebuck, the MVP guy, gets a shutout, right? So your star players, carrying, that's like that for most teams. And that's how it's relatable to the Avs, when they would lose games, it's like, oh, Makar had a tough one, or, you know what I mean? Or, oh, they didn't have the killer instinct. So for me, it was a little bit the way the Avalanche was a little bit. So that's how it was relatable to the team we cover. And then on the other series, it's Carolina. Yeah, they go about their business, man. Like people call it boring hockey, and I think AJ, you tweeted something today like, "Oh, call it boring hockey, but it's winning hockey." You know what I mean? It's I don't know what's boring about it, but they just shoot pucks and they work hard, and I don't mind them. Like I really don't. And I like the mentality of what Brindamore's brought, and they have the opportunity on a 3-1 game to close it. And yeah, Washington, are they frauds? And yeah, I mean, I really thought they were going to be a lot. You called it. I was like, I really thought Washington was going to be a lot better and a lot more into it. You know what I mean? Where they weren't. Yeah, you're right. I mean, that was for me my biggest miss of this year's playoffs. I really thought I got fooled by them. But Carolina just. Again, they're comfortable. People are like, it was close. It was 1-1. That it's a bad goal. No, I understand that. But that's what Carolina does. They like to play in those games. They don't panic. They like to be in the mud, like we talked about, the mud bowl, right? You know what I mean? Like and a little bit when Dallas is at their peak, right? When we saw that against the Avs, we were like, oh, right, it's going to be a mud bowl tomorrow. And then Carolina, give them credit. Give them credit. They find guys that want to be there. Stankoven now is like in heaven there. Taylor Hall signs an extension. He got there same day as Mikko. You know what I mean? If I remember, or give and take right around there. It was the same trade, wasn't it?
Same
Mikko.
trade.
Yeah. Same trade. Yeah, same day exactly. Wow, even worse. So it's like it's funny, because it's based around Rod Brindamore, and it's based around, and again, don't forget Anderson and net. Now he hasn't been hurt.
Much better.
So that gives him that stability and a guy, we could do a show, a Colorado native, Jacob Slavin, like this guy's just a machine. You want to learn, if you have a kid one day and you want to teach him how to play defense in the National Hockey League, you just show him, just say, son, just watch this guy. I always say that about Lecky up front, right? You want to learn how to play hockey, watch this guy, Jacob Slavin, like, guy's a stud. You know what I mean? Is it sexy? Not at all. But is it effective? Absolutely. So that's, I'm glad people are starting to see what Jacob Slavin is, which is awesome.
There's nothing sexier than winning, though. Like, I think back to like the Broncos in the Manning era. The flashiest, the best teams of that era didn't win the Super Bowl. The 2015 team did, which grinded out offense, smash mouth defense. That's not a perfect comparison, but like if you're getting it done, if you're winning, they're comfortable in those 1-1 games. Not every 1-1 game is equal. Like if you're in a team who lives in that type of, atmosphere night after night, they're built for those grinded out type games. They're right where they're comfortable. And I think it'll be interesting to see kind of how that plays out versus either Toronto or Florida. We're going to get into that in just a second. Let's take a quick break real quick. Shout out a couple of our partners. The NFL schedule is here. I'm already making my plans for this fall. The Bengals will be coming to town for Monday Night Football. That's exciting. Number 1 pick, Cam Ward, will be in the Mile High City. Get tickets to all of the best games at Game Time with exclusive discounts. You might be able to find great seats for as low as $100. The Game Time guarantee means you can trust 100% authentic NFL tickets on time and at the best price. Plus, fees are always included, so what you see is what you pay. It's not like some of those other apps out there where, list some killer deal. You go to check out. Nope, you got to pay a convenience fee. You got to pay a thank you for looking at my tickets fee. It's raining on Tuesday fee. It just gets ridiculous. Not with Game Time. They're here for the people, by the people, all in pricing. You can get a panoramic view from your seat before you buy. And with the lowest price guarantee, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code DNVR for $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. Again, create an account, redeem that code DNVR for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. I also want to talk to you guys about Monarch Money. It's easy to lose track of our spending. A few bucks at 7-Eleven here, McDonald's trip, a little bit of frozen pizza or something like that. All of a sudden, I blew $35 without even looking. It can add up quick. I've learned little tricks on how to save. You got to eat in all the boring stuff, basically, your parents used to say. But finances can be messy and confusing. Monarch Money, they act like your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control so you can stop, earnings, start growing. It's more than your average budgeting app. Monarch Money is a complete financial command center for your accounts, investments, and goals. With all your accounts, credit cards, and investments in one place, you'll always know where your money stands without the hassle. Don't just manage your money. Start building wealth with 50% off your first year for our listeners. Use the app named the Wall Street Journal's Best Budgeting App of 2025. Get control over your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code DNVR at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with that code DNVR. All right, we've got a big game tonight, obviously, between Toronto and Florida. Eric and I, a lot of bits yesterday, probably longer than we intended, talked about Toronto and all the implications that come with it. Obviously, there's a lot of pressure on this top unit to get it done. They've been pretty quiet in some of these big games, a lot like Dallas's top guys last night. What are your thoughts, AJ, going into this game 6? Like, is this a series that Toronto can still win? They were your pick originally. Where are you at?
Yeah, I mean, they can. I just don't know why you would have a whole lot of optimism that they will. I think this is the end of the core 4 era in Toronto. These guys have not come up at all in big moments over the years. They have consistently played down in the back against the wall situation. I mean, I don't know. They were so bad in Game 5 that you think, okay, it can't be that bad again, right? Like it just won't. It won't be that bad. I don't know if it'll be an easy out. For Florida, I would expect a little more pushback, but like
I
don't
have any pride at all.
Yeah, and like you are looking, Mitch Marner I think is gone in the off season. JT may or may not stick around. I expect he probably will at a reduced number. He's gotta live up to his little binky there. But I'm just not. I don't know. I liked them coming out of the first round, and I liked the early on in the series. But you're looking at not unlike what the Avs against the Stars, where Game 3 overtime is really the turning point of that series, where you look at it and just say they have a chance to go up 3-0 in that series and really, really, really put Florida on the back foot, and they don't. They blow that opportunity, and it's not a team that has understood how to play with any kind of sustained success over the years. When they get the success, they change how they play. They stop being the team that puts in the hard work shift by shift. They get a little satisfied, and they sit back on their laurels, and they get punched in the face by a team like Florida, who lives to punch people in the face. So I don't know how you could really have a lot of belief in them right now. Me being I pick Toronto every year, and every year they let me down, and I think we're probably here again. It's hard to win a Stanley Cup even when you go and get really good players like this core 4 era in Toronto, and it's not gonna come anywhere close to good enough. I think the big disappointment here is that Austin Matthews continues to just not be good enough. Like, he's not a super well-rounded offensive player. He's a goal scorer first and foremost. That's what you pay him to do. That's who he needs to be. And he just doesn't. He's not there. Like, Mitch Marner, at least you can look at Mitch Marner and say, well, where's his scoring? Where's this? At least he's been an excellent defensive player. It's a bad mistake that he makes the other day, that blind backhand pass up the middle. I don't even mind that so much as I do his effort on the defensive end.
Back check.
The response to it, I think, is way worse than the bad breakout play. That was where I had the real problem. But Marner has been a really solid defensive player over the years, and it's not good enough from any of these guys. So I fully expect Florida to come out, and I'm hoping it's at least a good game. You don't ever want a series to just especially as a neutral observer, you're always like game 7, but you want it to be competitive. It's what this time of year is all about. You want it to be competitive. If a team's going to go out, you want to go out with the best foot forward, not wilting in the spotlight, as we have seen them do time and time and time again in this era.
Well, you said something about Matthews. Here's what I'll say, and this is, again, just pure observations. No skin in the game, right? Obviously, Toronto, and I don't know personally, but that's your leader, right? And I know I come from a different era, but we do have it right here with Avs 2.0 with McKinnon's dog mentality. I felt, if I'm looking at this, I felt like he looked absolutely deflated, defeated after the game. And I'm not saying it's for everybody to meet the media. Some guys are good at it. Some guys are bad at it, But a lot of times
some guys just don't do it, like Big Val.
Yeah, exactly. But your demeanor is usually the same. You know what I mean? So he looked like a guy that was completely defeated. It just and if I'm like, oh, that's my leader, that's my guy. Because let's face it, if they're going to come out of it, he's the guy, right? So then I'm like, wow, as a fan or as a manager, as a coach, I was like, oh, that's got to be tough. It's got to be tough to watch. And I hope, like I said, you don't want to see people fail. I don't. I root for athletes. I really do. But I don't know. I don't know if he's got it. Marner, after that play, like you said, that backhand sauce, you can tell he's just like, oh, God, this is going to replay a gazillion times here the next 48 hours. And that's what he was thinking about. Not even thinking about oh, my God, I just made a bad play. I'm going to back check and, fix my mistake. No, he's thinking, oh, I'm toast. You know what I mean? I'm so toast with this play, right? And it's exactly what happens. Then they score, and then his body language just goes down. And I'm like, and Berube, you got to remember, for me, he's got the demeanor. I really like him. I love the way he speaks. I love the way he, but he hasn't molded those guys, right? Those guys are what they are. They've been there 8 years, whatever it is, and Chiefs not changing them. You know what I mean? So, and they asked him today, "Are you going to split them up?" And he's like, "No, I believe in them, and they've been great together, and that's what I'm doing." Again, what are you going to do? You're going to invent something new? You can't, and you got to keep your trust in what the management did was to trust that they can be different. But this is a lot of pressure tonight, because if they win, then they get to fight another day, and you're like, okay, maybe. And if they lose, then it's exactly what people have been saying. This core can't win, right? They can't win. They should have got rid of it, and then, so it's a tough situation to be in. But I do believe it's easier on the road for those guys. I think it'll be easier.
That's what I wanted to ask you. Is there almost less pressure than not having to do it in front of those Toronto fans?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. And over there, you can see, I don't know Mitch. I really don't. Seems like a nice kid, but you can tell it's got a little bit of arrogance with the media. You know what I mean? It's not pretty. There's a little bit of, those guys have always been barking at how quiet it is and how people don't really cheer loud. And I'm talking about the top players. They go publicly and say, "Oh, it's like a Morgan here." I think Matthews lifted his hands up last year. Remember, come on, be loud or something, right? I don't remember. It was something like that last year. I don't think it was playoffs. I think it was regular season. And they were like, "What are you doing?" He was like, "I just want the crowd to be into it louder." So I think there's a lot of pressure there. I played there for a bit. There's 1967. You know what I mean? There's people are just dying to see the Leafs win, and when they lose year after year, and they've had some good teams in those years, and it just shows you how hard it is to win the Stanley Cup. But I don't know. I think being on the road tonight will be easier for them. Get away from all the noise. But the noise exists, obviously. But then you're facing the Panthers, a team that knows how to knock teams out. You're talking about delivering the knockout punch. They've been the best at it in the third year now. I mean, they're the ones that have won the most series in the last 3 years, right? Because they went to the finals, they won the finals, and now they're in the second round. So that means they won the first round. So they've won, and they've delivered that knockout blow more than anybody else in the league. So they know how to do it. They know that Toronto's a good team. They know that they're in their own building. They have the experience to knock them out. So I do expect them to knock them out. You know what I mean? Because that's what I expect tonight. You know what I mean? And I expect it's not going to be an easy game. Even if it goes to OT, they know how to win in OT. They know how to, they're comfortable in those situations, where I think Toronto will be a little bit uneasy in my book. I don't know. It's must-see TV. It's must-see TV tonight. I'm excited for it. And I tell you, it's just I don't know. I mean, there's a lot. And I was looking at a stat here earlier, too, and I'm trying to remember what I was saying. But, somebody tweeted out there. And, again, one of my youngest ties "Dad, did you see that? Mikko's got 8 playoff goals in the last 6 games, and Marner's got 7 playoff goals in the last 6 years." So you're talking about your top-end guys producing. We've been used to it in Colorado with Mikko and Kale and Nate, and those Toronto guys, when it comes down to really wanting that money and $14 million a year and all that kind of stuff, you got to produce at the right times. You know what I mean? And I think that these guys have produced a lot in round one, games.
Is it a mentality issue? What's the deal? Is it the intensity of the defense goes up that much more? What do you guys think is the reason behind the shortcoming?
I think it's just your makeup. I think some guys can do it, some guys can't. And again, I was driving this morning. Somebody talked about Claude Lemieux, and I was laughing. I'm driving, and I'm like, it's so true, because all of a sudden the puck drops, and they're like, I want to go produce. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna produce. And I said it the other day. I think it was Rudo. I'm like, it's like me when I play golf, and it's like, I'm at a par 3 and the water in front of me, and I'm like, oh God, oh Lord, don't hit the water. You know what I mean? Where a guy like Claude Lemieux, a guy like Nate, and usually, and Mikko, you know what I mean? I'm gonna put it right next to the pin. It's a mindset. They're built for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're built for it. You know what I mean? And they go and they just do it. So those guys really had that mentality. The Mike Keens of the world, the Claude. I mean, it's different to a different level of production, but Claude would be like all-star production in the playoffs, and then you had to live with
Sam
him during
Bennett's
the
right
regular
there.
season. Sam Bennett, a great example, AJ. Exactly what that is. They
Playoff
live for
Jamal
the
Murray.
moment. Yeah, they live for the moment. They're like, give it to me. They love it. And some people crumble in that pressure. I don't know what it is. I think it's your makeup. It is what it is. So
I love it. All right, we're going to we'll keep the conversation rolling here. We can give a couple of final thoughts on Toronto and Florida, then we'll get into some Avs talk. We'll talk about development. We'll talk about some internal options to fill that power play coach void. Real quick though, let's shout out a couple of our other partners. DNVR Avalanche is brought to you by UC Health, the official healthcare partner of the Colorado Avalanche. Go to uchealth.org for more info. UC Health, live extraordinary. Trucks have always been a part of Toyota's DNA. For generations, Toyota's built durable legends destined for greatness and perfect for Colorado. Whether you're conquering off-road trails or hauling the weight of the world, there's a Toyota truck that's just right for you, like the all-new 2024 Tacoma. I also check out the Land Cruiser. Toyota's got 17 models with available all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, like the Epic 4Runner. They offer more low and zero-emission vehicles combined than any other automaker to give customers numerous choices to reduce that carbon footprint. 16 hybrid vehicles to choose from, like the Tundra iForce Max hybrid truck. Not to be outdone, though. Toyota SUVs take command on the road and on the trail. Visit your Front Range Toyota stores at a location near you. AutoNation Toyota Arapahoe and Centennial, Corwin Toyota and Boulder, Groove Toyota and Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota, the official vehicle of the Colorado Avalanche. Let's go places. You guys got any final thoughts on Florida, Toronto here? I guess quick would be somewhat short-winded here, but just gut feeling, who wins tonight? AJ, then Eric.
Florida.
Florida, Eric?
at least takes us. Did you guys see? Look at that cup. Is that a new cup you got? I like it. Is that the long one there? Let me see.
Yeah, my old one broke. The handle's broken
I
on it,
gotcha.
so I'm using this one now.
All right. I'm going Florida as well. And you're never dead until you're done, right? But I don't see it because that last game left me with such a sour taste. You know what I mean? And I think the media all assume that they're all dead. So maybe that wakes them up because they're like, oh my God, look, everybody's got us dead. I don't know. But I do believe it'll be easier on the road. And then I forgot to look, but Stolars, I know, was on the ice. He's not back, right? I don't believe so. Correct, Stolars?
I don't know.
No, not that I mean, again, chat will let me know, but I don't. I think he was on the ice, but I don't think he's back. But then again, he hasn't skated. It doesn't look like he's skated much. So again, you're my wonder wall. Like, you're my Joseph Wall. You never know. He might have one big game. Like yesterday. Last game, he looked decent till he dropped a couple. You know what I mean? And you felt bad for him because I'm like, oh, God. But, yeah, I don't know. You never know. I think Bob's got to be solid tonight. So if you're Florida, you better be ready because I think Big Bad Bob in net's going to be like, I'm not going back to Toronto. So he's going to be like, I'm closing this
a long flight, Sunrise, Florida to Toronto.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm going with Alyssa, too. I'm going Toronto.
Toyota chat
Florida
is
Panthers.
very much in agreement with us. They are leaning Florida. Let's pivot the conversation. Let's talk about the Avs development, talk about just kind of the state of the franchise as a whole. We had intended to get to this yesterday. We didn't really have time. Where do you guys want to start this? Do you want to talk about development first and then lean into kind of talk about the internal options in terms of replacing Ray Bennett?
I'm gonna jump in right away. So AJ, take a sip again of your new cup, and then I'm gonna think. Somebody was talking about Mel was just having a comment about the power play, and somebody was answering to it. I don't remember who it was, but they're talking about, yeah, the Avs have to go. No, Mel said a comment earlier about the power. Is it? Yeah. It's not hard to see. No, maybe, I don't know. Maybe the one before. I don't know. Again, sorry, Tiff. I'm putting you all over the map. But I wrote a note here saying that the Avs need to do some more stuff on the PP. They can't have the same structure and limited plan they've had every year. It costs us a series. I totally agree. I mean, AJ, we talked about that. For me, the number one reason the Avs lost was the power play. Their inability to deliver the knockout punch that we talked about a few minutes ago. I'm going to give my thoughts here on this. And people, God, I got to be careful what I'm saying here. So I'm not downplaying anything, but I'm going to give you what I've seen over the years. Like, so when I was playing and then working with the Avs 1.0, it's like the Sakic and the Forsbergs. You're talking about Claude Lemieux. And here's the problem on a power play, right? And it's going to sound so stupid, and I'm not downplaying anyone, and I'm not trying to downgrade anybody. What I'm saying is very simple. What I'm going to say: there's only one puck. There's 5 dudes, and I'm telling you, it makes a difference. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people will get sour a little bit because, it's not going through them. Or, you know what I mean? Like, I want the puck. I want to make the play. And I've seen it. I've seen it on teams. And guys get fat lips and, they get sour and they get mad. So I do believe that the Avalanche, obviously Ray Bennett, it's something. I feel bad for Ray. Like I said yesterday, he's a good man. He's a good coach. Brought a lot of stability to the coaching staff for 8 years with the Avalanche. So, but they had, like you said, they had to do something, and that's what they did. Fair enough. Let's move on from that. Now, internally, when you're going to hire somebody else, a lot of times head coaches are in charge of the power play. To be honest, it's a lot different than football. Like people, like offensive coordinator, and I'm learning more about the other sports. Where those are like real-time jobs, where being in charge of the power play is not really a big-time job in the National Hockey League. You know what I mean? Like, it's part of your duties. So there's usually the coach, right? And then there's the D coach, which is Prater. He's played that position. Usually it's always easier when you can relate to it. That's why Prater's done such a great job with all the Ds that have come in. And shout out to my guy, friend of the show, Sly LaFave, former teammate, right? In Florida. You talk about a guys that do an unbelievable job with the Ds that are given, right? Over the last 3 seasons. That D-Corps, Sly's done marvelous job. It's a lot like Prater. And they take, like Nate Schmidt, like reclamation projects, and they turn the guys into playing back to the way they're supposed to play. And so that's what the Prater's job is. Now, Ray, when you're dealing more with the forwards, and then obviously he was given the responsibilities of the power play, like Bednar's got a lot to do with that too. And a lot of coaches will say, no, I'm in charge of the power play. I don't, that's my thing. I'll give you something else. I mean, there's so many duties, right, of the coaching staff that they do all together. So you don't necessarily hire a guy for the power play when they know that they can do that internally as well. Now, here's what I'm going to say. That's why I got to be careful with what I'm going to say. That's why I'm like, I'm waiting to say it. Like, the players on the ice have a lot to do with it. And that's why I understand Mel's comment there, because I agree with Mel's comment. AJ knows he's sitting next to me in games, and I go nuts when I see that bumper play, and I'm like, are you serious? Or that cross-ice pass, and I'm like, guys, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? Like, we all know that. Everybody's watching, and people chat's right about in the playoffs, you're playing the same team over and over and over again. So it's easy to nitpick and watch and, see what's their tendencies. So a lot has to do with the 5 guys that are on the ice. You can have all the schemes you want, and you can have all the plays you want to do. Next thing you know, when the puck drops, everything goes out the window. And I always refer to guys as artists, right? Because power play guys, they're the ones that have all the pressure. The McKinnons, the McCarrs, again, Draisaitl, McDavid, they make a lot of money. Why do they make a lot of money? Because they produce. Therefore, if they produce, they're going to be the ones on the power play. So, and there's a lot of pressure that goes with that. And then there's a lot of guys that want the puck. And then all of a sudden, the Avalanche, for me, it's like you can tell them whatever you want. For me, they were stubborn on the ice, not necessarily stubborn in the video room or stubborn from their schemes, so to speak. So I'm going to put the blame on the players here, because all of a sudden it's like, come on, guys, like, this is not what we're talking about. And then under pressure, under your breath, you've been out there for a minute 20, you're making plays, and it's like, man, that's not what we're supposed to do. So I'm not defending anyone. I'm saying that the Avalanche, but I agree with you but they have to start listening. And then for me, they have to start. I always say it. I don't care what people say. You need 2 power play units. I'm a big. I live in the Sakic Forsberg era, and I tell you one thing. A lot of times we had 2 separate power plays, and it's competition, and it's like you got a minute. If you don't want to do anything, that puts a little bit of pressure, a little bit of like, yeah, you got a minute to do something, or else the other guys are going. And then the next time there's a penalty, it's the other unit that goes out there. There's competition. It can't be anywhere because that power play gets so hot and then it gets so cold. And in January, it got so cold and it wasn't hurting the team. And I remember Jared said, we're 12-2 the last 14 games. It hasn't hurt us. And I remember we were saying, like, until it does. Until it does. And in the playoff series, it's such a small sample that if you go south and if you go cold, and that's why I agree with Mel, it's so
The
frustrating.
margins are
You know what I
slim.
mean?
Yeah.
It's so maddening. I'm using Mel's word. It's maddening. I was pulling my hair, and it's like, so for me, a lot of times it's on the players. And again, I've seen Wayne Gretzky. I play with Wayne Gretzky. A lot of times those dudes will do what they want to do. You know what I mean? And usually works because that's why they're the top, right? But yeah, sometimes it's not what was planned, and that's what's happening. So that's kind of
Well,
my 2 cents on this one.
where I get really frustrated is that when they're at 5v5, we see them kind of globetrotter around the zone. There's a ton of motion. You have Taves and Makar diving in front of the net, and everybody is cycling and moving around and making themselves very difficult to defend. They draw a penalty doing that. They get on the power play, and they all just stand still. And you're just like, why? Why are you scarier to defend at 5v5 than you are 5v4? Like, why is it like this? And it's certainly a stubbornness. It's certainly, some of it is systemic. Um, I also, I always hate doing this, but I also think that some of Colorado's guys have low hockey IQ, and they don't always know what to do. They don't always play
Yeah.
that kind of style. Like, Colorado is an elite transition team because they can make plays off of the rush at high speed. When they're asked to play sort of that half court game, they struggle more
You're bang
because
on. You're bang on.
that's not how Colorado's best players generate offense. And you want to compare it to Edmonton, those guys are significantly better in that half court setting, in that sort of controlled setting of a power play, than Colorado's guys are. They've always been that way. Bouchard is great at it. McDavid and Draisaitl are unbelievable. Colorado, without Rantanen, doesn't have the high-end goal scorer that it used to. It has another playmaker now in Netchis, and it had a playmaker in Drouin, and then they had pick a guy in the middle, because sometimes it was Lecky, sometimes it's Nichushkin, sometimes it's Landeskog that they were misusing. Like, it was, for me, I'm like, you have too many guys trying to do the same job. So I think there was a lot of stubbornness, there was a lot of stagnation, but it came from so many different angles that I think having a fresh voice in there is going to help. It should be good. It should certainly be better than it was in the series against Dallas. You also have to give a little bit of credit to Dallas. That is an elite penalty killing team. But one
It
thing
is.
that they did on their power play to rip Colorado's PK to pieces was that they played below the goal line, and Colorado almost never does that. They never utilize.
Yeah.
Look, the goalie has his back. He can only turn so much and look behind him, and that creates a ton of problems. I've said this for a few years. That is where we're going to see the evolution of power plays and puck move and go, is pucks behind the net, forcing goaltenders to guess where that puck is and then go side to side where they can't see it and they're trying to anticipate, and it creates opportunities. That is the next evolution. That is an area that the Avalanche almost never exploit, and they need need to get to utilizing that kind of play. They almost never make that play with the little pass across in front of the net. It very rarely happens for them because they don't try to make it. And they just don't. They leave so many different elements on the ice. And so there's a lot. A fresh voice is going to help. They need a fresh approach. It's not that everything that they were doing is bad. If Cale Makar scores a couple of times in the series on one of those plays, we're not even talking about this because we're covering round 2 right now. So some of that's why Sakic said in his end of season presser, the players have to execute. Yeah. Cale Makar scored 1 goal in the series, and it was an empty net goal from 180 feet away. Like, Cale Makar needs to just score a goal. You need to have a better net for presence. You need to stop using Gabe Landeskog along the half wall. Just stop. And it doesn't matter now, but Brock Nelson needed to be in your bumper spot and not doing that nonsense that he was wasting his time on. So that, like, all of those things were things that were frustrating, and I have had an issue for years now with Colorado misusing players on the power play, and I think we're just seeing look, Ray Bennett is unemployed right now for a reason, and I think that's what stands out to me. Number one was that there wasn't any kind of an adjustment as their season was going up in flames, and the power play was actively hurting them. There's not an adjustment, and the misuse of players, but at the same time, like, your players do have to actually score a goal for you. Cale Makar walked down Main Street wide open multiple times on the power play and didn't score. Like,
yeah, and
that's not Ray Bennett's fault.
No. Then to your point, you said below the goal line. Like, I'll tell you one thing. Different era, but it's still at the end of the day a power play. And Wayne Gretzky gets a gazillion points. Write it down. He leads all-time point leader in the history of the National Hockey League with a gazillion points. And his office was where? Behind the net. There's a reason for that. And like you said about the goaltenders setting and having their eyes locked, but what it does is a shooting power play is a productive power play. And again, I'm going with Mel. Mel's my guy today. They insist on the low percentage plays across ice. Yeah, because for me, those are there at the end of your power play because you've already shot. You've made, like you said, the goalie's turn. Well, a shooting puck and it hits the goalie, goes up, it's called a broken play, right? Because you don't know where it's going to go. It's not like football. It's not a dead ball on the ground, right? Oh, whistle. No. It keeps going, and that's how you read and react. And some guys can't read, and some guys can't react. So now you're forcing their Ds to face their skates toward their own goalie. You know, it is so easy to defend when your skates are facing the opposition's goalie. But when you make them turn their feet and face their own goalie, it's always usually off of a shot, off of a broken play. Then a productive power play is a shooting power play. And I agree with him. Then once you do that, and there's 5 of you, 4 of them, you retrieve the puck, and then you can try. Those seams will open up. They will, because that's life, and that's how it is. And you've been down, and it's been a minute, and you're dying, and then you can't. Oh my God, they're done. You know, that's how you exploit a PK. You don't need a rocket scientist to know that. But also get back to what I was saying. If the Avalanche were running their PP at 50% and in their history of the league they're the number one, I'd be like, you know what? I got no problem with this crap. You know what? Keep the one power play unit. I got no issues. Oh, this guy can go forever. He's got iron lungs. Yeah, that's great. But they're not. And it's cost them a series. So for me, when you have all the people that you can have, and you make 2 power play units, because I'll tell you one thing, because I'm there every morning skate. I look. That's the only thing they ever practice is the power play, right, at morning skate. And you can tell I'm not naming players because they're all the same. So it's not knocking on one guy. But whoever's not on the main power play, they're usually down at the other end with the second power play. And you can see it in their demeanor. They're pouting and they're like, oh, God. Because as an offensive guy, you want the power play to help you feel good about your game and to go. But when you know you're not on the first power play in Colorado, you're not playing. You're getting 12 seconds at the end of the nothing burger icing or whatever it is. So, you know what I mean? You're not going to get out there because they stay the whole time. And that for me is a problem. You know what I mean? And you're talking about giving cookies and ice to the, making sure that players are able to produce. And then from that's area number one. I'm a big proponent of 2 power plays. I don't care what people say. I don't care. Again, I come from a Sakic-Forsberg era. Kaminsky, freaking Lemieux,
If nothing
all those
else,
guys,
having 2 units allows you to offer a little bit of versatility, just in terms of,
absolutely,
every player's got a little bit of different
absolutely,
style, a
yeah,
little bit of different flair. Their
yep,
instincts are going to be different. You're going to play things differently. And to me, and obviously, I'm not an expert on the situation, but the thing that frustrated me about the Avs power play, and this kind of goes back to what you guys both mentioned, is just
yeah,
the predictability of it all. You know how the structure is going to begin. You know exactly what they're going to do when they get into the offensive zone. They're going to
yeah,
hunt that McKinnon one-timer. They're going to try and get Makar shots from the, around the blue line. And if that's not working, other than maybe a lucky tip-in or something like that, they don't create enough chaos. They don't have the defense on their heels. When you know what's coming, it allows you to react to it with more certainty. And I think the thing that Dallas did such a good job of is just keeping the Avalanche off balance, and at times just causing chaos both behind and in front of the net. And you might get a lucky bounce or two. Like, I'd like to see the Avalanche get far more creative on the power play. They feel like a football offense who doesn't understand the benefit of having like motion and creating misdirection. If nothing else, you're going to open up different angles. And I just want to see a whole lot more versatility. We only have about 10 minutes left, so I do want to get your guys' thoughts on some options in terms of filling that power play coach void. Eric, I know you have some thoughts on the guys in Loveland. So I guess, kind of both you, where are you at? Does it make sense to go internal? Are there external hires that, stand out
yeah.
to either of you? Where are you guys at?
Well, I'm going to jump in first, AJ. So I know you think a lot like me, but you never know. But the one thing that stands out to me is the Avalanche really haven't had any turnover the last 8-9 years, right? I mean, obviously,
A lot of continuity.
there hasn't been any, and I love that in a crazy league like the NHL right now, when coaches last 3 months and they're gone, like it's crazy. So my point is I'm a belief of, I was raised by my dad, obviously, in this game and in management I'm talking about. And I know a lot of people believe in his methods, including Joe. And, obviously that's seen it firsthand. And I'm a big believer in promoting from within. That for me is very, very important. When I say that is when you have from within qualified people, and you're going to say sometimes, yeah, but he didn't do that at that time. He didn't do it. No, I know. No, I'm not saying every time. I'm saying that internally you have to look at it right away. And if you have qualified people, you have to look into it. Now, for me, 2 names really jump out at me. Danny is one of them. I know, obviously as related with the young guys in NTDP program, then went on back to be an assistant coach in the NHL behind the bench. Relatable guy, friend of the show, knows how to talk to people. Was he a power play guy? No, but again, I don't know what Danny's strengths are, but I'm pretty sure that all of a sudden, you can have a lot of schemes, a lot of it's like I said earlier, I'm putting the blame on the players, and it's like you can make the guys listen to you, and then and again, I don't know, maybe Bednar is going to take on the power play. Like I said, that's another possibility. We don't know that. We're not in the meetings, but I see that all the time. Or what coaches are like, no, I'll take it over. But if a guy like Danny that's played in the league, that's got the respect, maybe that's the goal. I don't know. On the flip side of things, Schneekloff. I really like Aaron Schneekloff. I really do. I really think that hasn't had nobody has had the opportunity to come from with him, because there's been no changes in 8-9 years. So it's not like they missed out on adding a guy.
That's
but
a move
Schneekloff,
he would make. You would think you would want to go from being AHL head coach to the power play coach. That's a move up.
Well, yeah, but again, it's an assistant coach, and again, I don't know. Like I always say the thing, like it's not like football, right? So the power play is just a part of your duties. And again, the new guy might not even have that, because Bednar might have that duty. He might just keep it. But Schneekloff was an outstanding power play player in the minors, never played in the NHL, but was a really, really good college player, a really smart college player, really smart player in the minors as a defenseman. You're talking about a power play guy that, could put up points. Yes, it's not the National Hockey League, but it doesn't matter. He's got a great hockey mind. He's a good person, and he's did the steps from the ECHL to the AHL. And maybe that's his next thing. He's never been at the NHL level. We talked about that with David Carl, never been around the NHL. So maybe it's time for him to be an assistant coach. And maybe Danny's goal to become, I'm using Danny, it was maybe his goal was to be a head coach somewhere. So now you got to take the reign of a head coach. And then he's becoming the head coach of the Colorado Eagles. And you see what I'm saying? So for me, there's two guys there in my book. And again, that's from the outside. Not from the inside. From the outside, you have two capable guys of filling that position there that would fit in wonderfully with for me, Prater and Coach Bednar, and really fit the mold of the Avalanche. And then internally, and then you fix those things in the minors. And then that goes a long way. Promoting from within, for me, is very important. That's what I learned back then from my old man. And
that's how you attract good people, right? Like,
that's right.
Good
that's
organizations. Right. You want to believe I'm going to have an opportunity to move up. There's got to be chances for upward mobility, or they're going to go elsewhere.
Yeah, and again, the American League is about developing, right? And now we all know that the Eagles are doing well because they're an older team. It's not their fault that there's not a lot of prospects and everything. It's they were traded the last few years. Try to go for cups, and so the cup is a little bit empty. But winning is still part of developing. So it's very important to have a winning environment. That's why they have the Magnas of the world there on American League deals. And because they want to have their young guys, and they also want to make sure the building's full and they're winning, because winning is part of developing. AJ, go ahead. Sorry, I took over.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just think when you're talking about trying to find a guy, High Note is the obvious example, right? The Eagles power play was 6th best in the AHL this year. I don't know if I'm going to attribute that just to Danny Haefele, but he has spent 4 years on an NHL bench. He did play for a long time in the NHL. Like, there's going to be a certain cachet there when he walks in the door.
It's a name even I know.
Well, that's because you remember the 2001 Cup, and that's the thing that everybody in Colorado remembers him for. So, yeah, like I think that's the easiest move to make. It is a fair question whether Schneekloth would be interested in. He's been an extremely successful head coach in the ECHL, then up into being an assistant in the AHL. Now he's the head guy in the AHL after Cronin left. Like, he has been a really successful head coach.
He might have options one of the guys elsewhere in the near future.
Maybe, absolutely.
So is this an opportunity for him to would he want that assistant job just to break in, got a couple years on the bench there and then get a head job elsewhere? Or, as we've seen with some of these other guys, like look at Mitch Love, who's been one of the top coaching candidates as an AHL guy, has not been able to get an NHL head coaching job. So maybe the easiest path for Schneekloth is to make this jump to an assistant in the NHL, and then you get the big job from there. So that, both of those I think make a lot of sense, and the internal hiring processes allows for people from the outside to look at it and say, oh, hey, good, that's an organization that wants to promote, that I'll have an opportunity. Great.
And careful, because a lot of teams, won't allow their coaches to make lateral moves, right? You can't just all of a sudden, but I'll go there. People are on the contract, and sometimes, you can't just go and get, this guy. And also always remember, it's just like a locker room. It's like everything else. There's some sort of chemistry between the head coach and the assistant coaches, and then there's the titles of associate coach. I think Ray had the title of associate coach, so sometimes you can get around that from making a lateral move. Look, he's coming in from being an assistant coach to associate coach. That's how you get around it. I'm not saying they're technicalities. I'm saying you have more responsibilities, i.e. like the power play, or, not just the power play, but also this, and this, and that. There's so many things. Coaches, guys get in the office at 7 a.m., and they leave at 6 p.m. and that's a non-game day. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of managing minds, bodies, and again, that's what we're saying is so different than the college game, because you're talking about athletes that make millions of dollars, and it's just a different set of egos. And it's, again, I said it earlier, I'll say it again, there's only one puck. There's only one puck out there, and that's what it is. You see it in football all the time, right? I never get the ball. I read that all the time. I start laughing, oh, the schemes don't go through me. I want the ball. What's that?
I was just making a joke. I said, oh, look, I got props too.
Yeah.
Anyways, shout out to everybody for rocking with us today. This was a fun conversation. We'll have plenty of action coming your way in the next couple of weeks reacting to the NHL playoffs. We're going to have some fun guests on the show. Talk about all kinds of stuff. Go full off-season mode. I'm J-Mike for Eric, for AJ, for our amazing and wonderful producer, Tiff, who makes all this magic happen behind the scenes. Thank you so much for tuning into the DNVR Avalanche Podcast. Hope everybody enjoys their weekend. Have a great one, y'all. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.